Registration and Credentials Committee reports registration as follows. There are 98, 97, 96. Last count, there are 98 voting delegates registered in attendance, pastors and laypersons. Let's call it 16 advisory delegates with voice but no vote. 2 special invited convention participants without voice or vote. 4 working force in attendance without voice or vote. And 33 guests in attendance without voice or vote. Although I think that number may be less.
That's okay.
They're not checking out. There are a total of 115 delegates entitled to vote. On behalf of the committee, I move that the roll of the voting members just submitted be the official roll of voting members of the convention.
Is there a motion for that?
So moved.
All right, a second. All in favor of accepting the credentials report, signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed? You got it. All right. There are no additional elections that we need to be dealing with. So therefore, we will be taking up the overtures from the various board committees. I'd like to call on Reverend Bill Shute, who will introduce also his committee. And the overtures.
Thank you, Reverend President. I'm Pastor Bill Shute. I represent the Administration Committee. Those are the 3 overtures, number 12-01, 12-02, and 12-03. I'd like to thank Mr. David Seaman of the Central Region, Reverend Ned Murray of the Eastern Region, and Mr. Warren Alden of the Western Region for your assistance in this committee, and Pastor Butch Rains, our District Secretary, as our resource person. The first of our overtures is titled to update the Oklahoma District Handbook. This resolution seeks to update the Oklahoma District Handbook to comply with the Oklahoma District Convention of 2018 and with the Synodical Resolutions of 2019. Resolution. And I would beg permission to not read all of the changes at the end of this resolution. I will just note what they are. Whereas the Oklahoma District Board of Directors, hereafter BOD, implemented a personnel committee to oversee the employees and called workers of the district, and whereas Lutheran Social Services of Kansas and Oklahoma is overseen by the BOD, and whereas the 2018 Oklahoma District Convention established a public relations committee, and whereas the district handbook needs to be brought into compliance with the action of the 2019 Synod Convention, and whereas the following changes have been approved by the CCM, therefore be it resolved that the district handbook be amended as follows. The changes that you see down there are all of the changes found. Most of them are the additions of additional sections plus some clarification language. And notice if there is a hired position, Lutheran Social Services, Inc. members, Personnel Committee, Public Relations Committee, plus some clarification language on the board. I present this overture to be considered.
All right, and being from a floor committee, we need not have a second to that, so I think we can bring this to vote. To update the Oklahoma District Handbook according to Overture 12-01. Press 1 for yes, press 2 for no, vote now. End vote. It is overwhelmingly yes.
Thank you. Our second overture is 12-02. titled to select the district treasurer through appointment. And a note about this one, this resolution seeks to empower the district president and board of directors to appoint a qualified district treasurer in the future with the required accounting and business management capabilities. As a note, this will be a change to the handbook, and so it has to be voted on this time and then ratified the next time should it pass today. So this will not change the fact that Brett England was elected today. Whereas the synodical handbook states that the districts are to be represented by a treasurer that may be elected or appointed. Article 12, districts of the Synod and the regulations are Part E, a district treasurer who may be elected by the district convention or appointed in such manner as the district may prescribe. And whereas the synodical handbook states that the district treasurer is to be a layperson, elected or appointed as the bylaws of the district may provide, 4.3.2 states each district shall have a treasurer who shall be a layperson and shall be elected or appointed as the bylaws of the district may provide. Whereas the Oklahoma District Handbook, Article 3, 1.d states, district treasurer, the district treasurer shall be elected by the district convention. The treasurer shall be the custodian of all money and legal documents of the district and shall also serve as district business manager. The treasurer shall be assisted by the district staff for the accounting of funds and preparation of records. The treasurer shall be a lay member of the congregation of the district and have proficiency in finance and accounting. And whereas the role and function of the treasurer may be held by an individual with specific competencies and qualifications, and whereas Article 3, Part 3 lays out the rules for appointing positions to serve the needs of the Oklahoma District, stating, appointments to district positions may include but not be limited to the following, and shall be made as follows. Appointments made by the district president shall be ratified by the district board of directors. And whereas many districts now appoint the treasurer in order to have someone proficient in finance and accounting, whereas the scale of the job requires a highly skilled and professional individual, and whereas the current district treasurer has indicated that appointing this position allows the future board of directors to ensure a qualified candidate fills this position. Therefore, be it resolved that the role of the district treasurer for the Oklahoma district no longer serves as an elected position, but becomes an appointed position. And be it further that the Oklahoma District Handbook, Article 3.1.d, be moved to Article 3, Part 3. And be it finally resolved that the Article 3.3 be amended as follows, and it changes elected to appointed by the district president and ratified by the district board of directors. I present this overture to be considered.
The overture is before you, 12-02, to select the district treasurer through appointment. Any discussion to that?
This seems to violate the idea of the separation of powers. You're asking the voters to abdicate their authority to the president, have the president appoint the treasurer. The treasurer should answer to the voters, not the president. I do not see how this is a good idea.
A note is most of the business managers and district treasurers of the districts are actually appointed at this time. It requires training in both accounting and business management, and it is at a higher, and many are actually being paid now because of the level of competency required. That was why it was suggested as a potential move. It does require approval by the board of directors, so it is not a unilateral decision by the president.
But it does remove the authority from us to the president.
It shifts it to the president, yes. Yes.
That's my objection.
Any further questions?
Okay, I'm having a point made by the one who actually asked for this, that it should be appointed by the board of directors. The clarification, though, is Every other appointment is made by the president and approved by the board of directors. That's why the language for appointment was made in this way. So if we move to an appointment system, this is consistent with our other appointed positions.
Yes. You may speak.
Now, I appreciate your concern, but what has happened in the past, it's just like today. The nominating committee mined, looking for qualified people, and could find no one other than the current treasurer that was willing to have a name submitted. And there was some discussion going on, and if someone knows QuickBooks, they can handle the finances of the district, and that was what prompted this. And currently, the treasurer and CFO of the Senate is appointed by the board of directors. And it was taken from the Senate and convention to the board of directors, I think in 2010, I can't remember, but that was changed at the Senate level. I think, again, trying to make sure we find qualified people and not be tied to a convention is the reason that the thought process was to be accountable. Again, this board of directors and the president is always accountable to the Senate or to the district in convention. We can only operate at the authority of the district convention, but that's the convention gives the president and the board the opportunity to act on behalf of the district between conventions.
Daniel Ross or Danny Mustang. How would it be any easier to find somebody to appoint as opposed to elect? If the issue is finding somebody, I guess my question is how does this solve the issue that we can't find somebody to serve the office?
Well, because what would happen is it would be an appointed term, and it could be filled any time between conventions. It wouldn't necessarily be at the convention.
But if it was vacated in between conventions,
It would be.
it's empty. The president or board of directors can't appoint.
Would do that between conventions. In other words, it's not, the appointment would not be tied to the convention. It would not be tied to a convention cycle.
Question.
Jonathan Meyer, Holy Trinity in Edmond. So, currently, if Brent England were to resign mid-term from here to the next triennium, would the president automatically appoint anyway?
Yes. That is the current rules.
Okay. I'm in favor of the concept because I think as a district we put forward people and we trust the board of directors, we trust the presidency. That's why we elect them, because we're putting our trust in to lead us. I think it's more of just the fine tuning. How does the process work for some of these things? Can the district president say, nope, I don't actually want you to serve anymore, and you're out? Is that, I guess, some of the logistics of it is just unclear, a little fuzzy. And I guess, sort of to Daniel Ross's point, that if the president can just appoint now, how does this proposal really solve anything? If the president can appoint whenever there's a vacancy anyway.
Again, I think one of the key things is someone qualified, and that was what every nominating committee that I've dealt with since I've been the secretary, it's always trying to find someone qualified at that time to have their name put on the ballot. and it becomes a real challenge. Like, there was, well, like I say, well, it's just like handling the QuickBooks and the operation. We have right now currently a budget of around $1 million. Almost $400,000 of that, and I'm just speaking off the top of my head, I don't have exact numbers, but $400,000 of that goes to the missions here in the Oklahoma district. We currently send about $150,000 to the Synod as our gift to the Synod. That is down a little over the last couple of years because of our finances here in the district. And so we've had to cut back on what we send to the Synod. But though our mission outreach is the biggest one. And the district treasurer also serves as the treasurer for Camp Luther-Homa. And that is a whole nother set of accounting. And it's not business accounting, but it's accounting in the church.
I know it's my only second time I'm allowed to speak on it. So, if there had not been a nomination in this convention, what would have happened? Which I assume the answer is the president would have just appointed someone. But secondly, so it sounds like the solution that is being put forward is simply for, in the off chance that we weren't able to have gotten someone qualified, then the president can go on ahead searching for it.
Here's one thing that Brent England did make a point when this came up in the last board of directors meeting, when it was proposed, is we're one of the few, in most of the cases where the district treasurer is appointed, they're also paid. And we are talking about $1 million budget for the district. You're talking about another $2 million in assets for the camps. And currently, if we're going for an elected volunteer position, paying them becomes a question. Whereas if it becomes an appointed position, if payment becomes required, it becomes possible. It's not baked into this because it's not the intention of this overture or to make it into a paid position. But I think long term we do have to recognize that when we're talking about $3 million+ in assets, having someone who's doing multiple hours every single month, often multiple hours every week, as a volunteer may be impossible to actually find a volunteer. Whereas having a paid treasurer may make sense. One note, the books are they're audited every single year by an outside firm. So even if, well, I was going to say Barry, even if President Hankey tried to appoint someone right now under these rules, it would still have to be approved by an outside auditor as being legitimate expenses and things like that. So there are oversight mechanisms in the system already. But I do acknowledge that at this point, when Brent decides that he's done serving in this position, we run into the very difficult question of how do we find someone who has both accounting and business management qualifications in nonprofit, because that's unique. And I think one non-controversial thing that we can do associated with the district president is commend Brent England for the hard work that he has done for 30 years.
If I could say so. You know, again, I perceived that your concern was that the district president would be but it really, he will make the recommendation, but the board is the one that would actually make the final appointment at his.
I had one more question, and I know it's my second time. How I read it, basically, it's a lifetime appointment. The district president appoints, so does the next district president then inherit that appointment? Like, there's no, whereas currently, our current system is, every 3 years. I'm just curious how that has been addressed or thought through.
It would serve by agreement or disagreement.
Okay.
Yeah, it would. In other words, if there became some question, the board would then have to fix it.
Mark Munchow, Pastoral Delegate Messiah, OKC. It's also would go through the Personnel Committee because they're involved in all, if it became a hired position, that would be another level of oversight, the reason we have a Personnel Committee.
The parliamentarian may correct me, of course, but I believe that at the beginning of every term, the district president would have to reappoint anybody who is appointed, and so it would be renewed at those times.
Yes. All voluntary positions are gone when the president steps down. The newly elected president is then able to appoint any appointed positions.
Any other questions? Are we ready to vote? Seeing no questions, then
Someone called the question.
call the question. All right, we have to vote and call the question.
Yes.
We have a motion to call the question. All in favor of calling the question, signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Okay, I guess we call the question. Now, going to this Overture 12-02, to select the district treasurer through appointment. If you are in favor, 1 is yes, 2 is no. Vote now. In voting. Yes. The yeses have it, so.
Okay.
All right, then the next action would be that I'm still the district president, so I appoint myself.
Nice try.
It was worth a try. All right, our next one.
All right, the third overture that the administration committee brings before you is Overture 12-03 to request expanded permissions for the 1986 translation of the Small Catechism. Whereas the Great Commission compels the church to proclaim God's salvation to the nations and thoroughly catechize the baptized, and whereas we pledge ourselves to the Small Catechism along with the rest of the Book of Concord as a faithful exposition of God's Word, and whereas the Small Catechism is a wonderful tool for leading people into the truth of Scripture, and whereas the society around us is moving to digital platforms for an increasing amount of communication, and whereas the internet opens doors to share the faith with those unable or hesitant to come into a church building, and whereas Christians also, even our own members, are increasingly seeking technological approaches to everyday tasks, therefore be it resolved that the Oklahoma District of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod give thanks to God for the Concordia Publishing House and the catechetical resource that they have provided to the church, and be it further resolved that we commend these resources for our congregations and their members for use in church, home, and outreach, and be it finally resolved that the Oklahoma District memorialize the Synod in Convention to direct Concordia Publishing House to allow the 1986 translation of the Enchiridion of the Small Catechism to be used by congregations, church workers, and members in various media, including print and online platforms, free of charge with proper attributions, in support of evangelistic and catechetical efforts. This was submitted by the Ponca City Circuit and approved by the Administration Committee for consideration.
So you have before you Overture 12-03, requesting expanded permission for the 1986 translation of the Small Catechism. Is there any speaking to this? Seeing no hands, then let's go for the vote. Press 1 for yes, press 2 for no. Vote now. End the votes. All right, that's overwhelming yes.
The Administration Committee had received one final overture, but due to the complexity and late time of receiving it, we chose not to consider that one, and so this concludes the Administration Committee's work for this convention.
Let me thank the administration and the board committee. Our next board committee is board committee number 5 on missions, and the chair recognizes Reverend Gary McClellan, as he will also introduce his committee.
I think I mentioned that I'd have committee 5 come forward, and most of them are gone right now. You stay where you are, but Pastor Ryder is kind of moving around in the back at the moment. And then also we had Keith Leinbach, who was a layman from Kingfisher who had to leave already. And the memorial we're bringing forward, and because of the ineptness of my secretary, it does not have a number on the sheet here. It would be 501, but it's listed. Okay, to raise awareness of Comfort Dog Ministry. And the inspiration for this actually comes from Mr. Leinbach. As was mentioned earlier, he was on one of the response teams that went down to Uvalde a couple of weeks ago, and he did speak a little bit about his experience with that, and this is a memorial to encourage the use of what we have available. Whereas comfort dogs have proved to be great sources of comfort and healing in times of disaster and tragedy. And whereas our district currently has multiple comfort dogs available for times of need for Lutheran Church charities. Therefore, be it resolved that the Oklahoma District make use of the Lutheran Witness, social media, and other methods to raise awareness of this asset, and be it further resolved that the congregations of the district be encouraged to call upon Lutheran Church charities or the host congregation for comfort dogs in times of need and tragedy. Mr. Chairman, the committee moves adoption.
The overture is before you to raise awareness of Comfort Dog Ministries. Is there any speaking to the question for the overture? Seeing none, let us vote. Press 1 for yes, press 2 for no. Vote now. End your vote. Overwhelming yes. Okay. I'd like to ask for board committee number 11, Christian Education. Reverend Tim McCarty, would you just introduce your committee?
David, other committee, Sharon, and
John Wilkie and Sharon Thompson, who's back there, okay. And Linda Hoyle. Okay. All right, thank you very much. The chair recognizes Reverend David Thompson for evangelism, board committee number 6. Just introduce your committee. Just say Mark Moses, say it. Say Mark Tommy. Say Joe Peckman. And say Dwayne Schrader is your resource. Yes. Okay, all right. Can you tell he's retiring in about a month? Can you tell that? Can you tell?
Great ventriloquism act.
The chair recognizes Reverend Phil Borntrager with Floor Committee Number 7, Youth. You want to introduce your group? Where's Borntrager? I'm right there.
Yes. I am Phil Borntrager, Reverend and Chairman, and our resource person is Suzanne Watt. And on our committee is Mr. Brad Cage from the Central Region, Ms. Cheyenne Green from the Eastern Region, and Reverend Tim Rogow from the Western Region.
All right, thank you very much. Next is Reverend Timothy George on Stewardship, Floor Committee Number 8, and you do have an overture, so I'm going to let you do all the work in introducing your committee as well as the overture.
Good afternoon, Reverend President.
Reverend George.
Our overture is entitled to request that the Oklahoma District LCMS develop sabbatical guidelines for congregations, schools, and called district church workers. It does not have a designation of 8-01 because it lost its identity in the formatting process. Is there anyone that does not have that resolution or overture? Please raise your hand. Okay. Whereas the word, I guess I forgot to introduce the committee, sorry. Our floor committee includes Greg Burge, John Minders, and Terry Shorter, who is unable to be here at the convention. And our resource person is Reverend Rick Tavis, stewardship person at this time. And so, whereas the word sabbatical is derived from Sabbath, which means rest, and whereas historically in church and academia, professionals were given a Sabbath, sabbatical, every 7th year, and whereas a number of Oklahoma district called church workers have requested guidelines for sabbatical policies, and whereas giving support to professional church workers in maintaining good health, including physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health, may benefit the worker, the congregation, school, and the church at large, and whereas healthy professional church workers are more likely to build healthy congregations and schools, and whereas when there is a good match between the professional church worker and a congregation, school, a long-term ministry is advantageous, and whereas a sabbatical is cost-effective in terms of stewardship of resources, congregational health, and focus on the overall mission, and whereas good self-care, which includes a regularly scheduled sabbatical, keeps a professional worker healthy and may enable him or her to achieve a new sense of vision, renew his, her calling, evaluate and elevate his, her gifts and skills and the needs of the ministry. And whereas a professional worker who practices good self-care remains healthier and may extend his his or her life and ministry, and whereas sabbatical leave should be an ongoing intentional part of a congregation's school's ministry, not a reaction to a crisis, i.e. burnout, forced removal, etc. And whereas the Oklahoma District does not have formal guidelines to assist professional church workers and congregations, schools, to develop sabbatical plans that address local unique situations, therefore be it resolved that the Oklahoma District, LCMS, develop appropriate guidelines to assist the various parishes, schools, and professional church workers of the district. And be it finally resolved that the Board of Directors appoint a committee within the district to develop sabbatical guidelines in a reasonable period of time. The committee presents this overture to the convention for approval.
All right, the overture is before you from Board Committee number 8, to request that the Oklahoma District, LCMS, develop sabbatical guidelines for congregations, schools, and call district church workers. Is there any discussion to that? Seeing none, then let us call for a vote. If in favor, press 1 for yes, press 2 for no. Vote now. In vote. Yes, okay. Right. Thank you, Reverend George. And your board committee number 8.
I'm ready for a bit of sabbatical.
It's a bad. Our chair recognized is Reverend Ron Simpson, chairperson of Board Committee number 9, Human Care, who will introduce the committee and present an overture.
Thank you, Reverend President
Simpson?
Can you hear me? I'm going to hold this so that you can hear it. I'm Reverend Ron Simpson, Good Shepherd Lutheran Church, Midwest City, and I'm also the chair of, as President Henke announced, Committee number 9, Human Care, and we recommend consideration and ultimately adoption of Overture 90112. Does everybody have a copy of that? Or no? Does everybody have a copy? Is there anyone who doesn't have a copy? I'm sorry, I've got to get my glasses out. Overture 90122 to reaffirm the sanctity of human life in the face of overturning Roe v. Wade. Whereas human life begins at conception, Job 10, 9-11, Psalm 51:5, Psalm 139, 13-14, Isaiah 49, 1-5, Jeremiah 1:5, Luke 1, 41-44, and others. And whereas, quote, abortion is not a moral option, except as a tragically unavoidable byproduct of medical procedures necessary to prevent the death of another human being, vis-a-vis the mother, end of quote. 1983 Resolution 3-04D, St. Louis Convention, and whereas since January 22nd, 1973, 49 years, abortion has been a legal choice in the United States for women who want to terminate an unwanted pregnancy. Although the Holy Scriptures clearly teach that this killing of the unborn is an abomination to the Lord. Genesis 9:6, Exodus 20:13, Numbers 35:33, Proverbs 6:16-17, Acts 7:19, 1 John 3:15. And whereas the Supreme Court of the United States could release an opinion as soon as Monday, June 13, 2022, overturning its landmark 1973 Roe v. Wade ruling that legalized abortion nationwide. Therefore, be it resolved that the delegates of the 50th Convention of the Oklahoma District of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod wholeheartedly endorse the ministry of Lutherans for Life, and be it further resolved that convention delegates, pastors, teachers, church workers, and congregations of the Oklahoma District commit to the review and study of various, quote, resolutions on the sanctity of human life by pro-life Lutheran church bodies, end of quote, which are posted on the Lutherans for Life website, and the link is in your resolution or overture. And be it further resolved that all parish pastors be encouraged to attend an abortion round, especially if Roe v. Wade is overturned, for the express purpose of witnessing the self-centered, hellish philosophy and rhetoric exhibited by rally speakers, protester signage, and crowd speak, thus re-energizing pastoral passion for the lost in their preaching. And be it finally resolved that the district leadership make efforts to communicate support to all state, political, and civic leaders who are pro-life, thereby sharing the news of the adoption of this resolution by convention, and take steps toward organization and or promotion of pro-life rallies in Oklahoma. Mr. President, I move consideration and adoption of this resolution, or overture.
Okay, the Overture 9-01-22 to reaffirm the sanctity of human life in the face of overturning Roe versus Wade has been presented by the committee. Is there discussion, comments about this?
I want to say it's Glenn Meyer, Trinity McAllister. I think it's a wonderful overture, and I think we might have omitted the LCMS Life Ministry as we jump onto the Lutherans for Life that I've been supporting forever and ever. But now we have our own synod organization. Perhaps we could add that to the overture so we don't forget our own LCMS effort.
I'm not sure how to do that. Are you making a motion to friendly amendment? Actually, I'm sorry for violating the protocol here. I should have introduced our committee.
Yeah.
I'm the chair. Mr. Ron Horn is a member of our committee. Ron, would you stand? Thank you, Ron. Also, Mr. Brad Bunch is here. There. Also, Pastor Richard Daly. If you could stand, some people could see it. Thank you. And our resource person is from our district board of directors, Walter Backus. I apologize for that.
So you heard what was suggested by Pastor Meyer as a friendly amendment or in addition to. Is there any problem from the committee with it?
Any committee members, do you have any problem with that?
And pass it here. Come up here, Glenn, and talk, say it in the microphone. And where do you want it placed?
Okay, so we have our own LCMS Life Ministry organization. So I would propose that we add it to, after that resolution be it resolved, line number 29. I suppose that's a good place.
Should be 24.
Maybe 24, okay. The Ministry of Lutherans for Life, and so there, insert and LCMS Life Ministry. Sounds good?
Okay. Does the committee accept that as a friendly addition?
Gentlemen, I don't see any objection. Yes, we do, Mr. President.
We have no problem. No problem. Okay. All right. We get a second. All right.
Second.
Second. We got it. Okay. Thank you. All right. Any further? Yeah. Pastor Schneider.
Bill Schneider, St. John's Law. Do we think it's wise to encourage us to go into a situation, a volatile type situation, just to say, I was there and I saw what happened and what was said?
That's where the word encouragement comes in. You have the discretion whether or not you feel the anxiety that you would experience is too much to risk, whatever. I should share with maybe the assembly as full disclosure. I have attended an abortion rally, and I went in it with this strategy with 3 goals: to listen, learn, and invite. Invite for further follow-up conversation after it was over. I didn't go there to intimidate or confront or agitate in any way, just to listen. And I came away from that experience having a greater affirmation of a lifelong growth in the Christian faith and how dead right it is with regard to something like this. And I think it would energize or re-energize preaching when you see people who are in such darkness with regard to this issue. It can't help but strengthen your heart and flesh for them, I guess. And again, the key word with regard to that is encourage. I understand that for some it may not, but we are going to be hit with a storm here in just a short period of time, as President Harrison talked about, of a lot of these protests. And the Christian faith, I believe, needs to get out there in the public square and show that there is a different opinion out there, and support our civic leaders as they attempt to represent our point of view. And this is just one way that that can be done. There's all other ways of communicating.
All right, Pastor Simpson, I think we need to vote on this resolution. It's Overture 9-01.
Just the amendment.
This is just the amended version. Remember, this was amended, but it was a friendly amendment.
Friendly amendment, it wouldn't pay you.
We wouldn't have to vote on that.
They wouldn't have a vote.
Yeah.
They accepted the friendly.
Oh, okay, so they accept.
All right, they accepted it. All right. So I think we're ready to vote. So let us, you have to reaffirm the sanctity of life in the face of overturning Roe versus Wade. And all those, 1 is yes, 2 is no. Vote now. The end of voting. Looks like it's overwhelmingly yes. All right, thank you, Pastor Simpson. Our next board committee is Public Relations. Pastor Glenn Meyer. There's no overture, but would you like to introduce your committee?
All right, so our committee is Public Relations, which sounds like I'm doing that right now. And Communications, served by Pastor Mark Munchow from the Central Region, the Board of Directors representative, Mark Yates from the Central Region. Listed officially was Kevin Whirling, but Terry Bartley took his place from the Eastern Region, and Mark Hallinger from the Western Region. So we came up with 5 items as results of our discussion, but we didn't feel like any of those really needed to be put into Overture. So we are forwarding that information on to the district's communication team for them to take action on it. And the communication team was very happy to receive it that way.
Okay, thank you very much. I believe we have no elections to deal with, and so any unfinished business? I don't believe there is. So staff reports. We'll start. And by the way, if you were elected to an office, you have to stay until after the adjournment for the installation service. Education Executive David Birnbaum.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
That was weak. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Who's still awake? My name is David Birnbaum. I crossed the river about 9 years ago from Texas. So Texas farm boy, been principal at Ponca City and been serving in the Lutheran school system for 33 years now. It has been an honor and a privilege to work with Reverend President Henke for these past 7 years, and I'm looking forward to working with President Ahrens in this new role also, and I praise God for the wonderful leaders I've been able to work with in this district. So I want to also recognize Reverend Simpson and thank him and the Oklahoma District Disaster Response. They were able to give our Lutheran schools $10,000 if they applied for the grant through that program, through the COVID, and trying to survive the 2020 lack of money coming in for the teachers and the staff situations going on. So could we please give that disaster response a round of applause? We did not present any recommendations for educational overtures for this convention, but there are a couple of great ones coming through from other districts. One about student-teacher debts being forgiven, so that's an overture coming up, and also trying to get better training for those leaders in our Lutheran schools across the country that aren't even Lutheran and possibly aren't even Christian. So trying to get better programs in education and have overture to push our congregations to go that route. I ask that you continue to pray for our Lutheran leaders and their service in our schools, early childhood centers, and youth programs. The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. I just want to remind you that it's still all about Jesus.
Thank you very much. Our evangelist executive, Reverend Dwayne Schrader. Words. 53 words.
It's been an honor to serve as your evangelism exec, and you can refer, and I encourage you to refer to the report that's in the workbook. But at our evangelism floor committee too, just a lot of encouragement of going out, witnessing your faith, and there's opportunities. You see the banner behind us through our synod. You know, I encourage you to do that. Ongoing ambassadors for Christ have been being picked up, and several congregations have been working with small groups, and so encourage you to look into that. Plus, everyone is witness. We heard some about that. So just encouragement. Thank you, Reverend President Henke, for being my president and being able to serve with you these past couple of years.
It's been an honor.
Was that 500 words?
For those of you who don't know, at the board of directors, we limit him to 500 words for the whole morning. And we count them as we go.
He always blows it.
Children's Church Extension Fund, we've already heard from them. Jeff Maltz with join us for report. All right, thank you. And mission exec, Gary Rohr, Reverend Gary Rohr.
It's been a privilege for me over the past year and some months to get to know our mission work that's being done on the eastern side of the rural areas. Lynn Meyer, Pastor Bernardo Rangel in Tulsa, Pastor Abu Farhado in Oklahoma City. And you can refer to my report there in terms of some changes that took place in our mission budget, which was also reflected in various changes, downsizing some of the ministries which were being supported. What I'd like to just kind of say as we work towards our next 3 years is to suggest that if you have a mission opportunity in your area, in your congregation, I would suggest you begin to formulate those ideas. What I'm getting at here, I'm not in a position to tell you what our next mission should be coming down the road. I feel like it should come from you, and just as a thought, one congregation has approached me to say, hey, we should consider to having ministry among the African American community in the state of Oklahoma, which we currently do not have. So if you have a mission interest, if you see people around you, an opportunity that you would like to explore, please approach me, approach the district, and I thank you, and I look forward to thank you for putting me in this position, and I look forward to working with our next district president. Thank you very much.
Outdoor Ministry, Reverend Greg Brown, Luther Haven Retreat Center, and Camp Oklahoma. As he comes up here, notice how he's, come on, get up here. Notice how he's walking. He's already walking like a Northern Illinois person. He took a call to Northern Illinois, and he's going to be moving at the end of this month. And so that's why he looks the way he does.
all the time. I had a problem with Panhandle and all the stuff with it. Okay. Yeah. I'll put up with you. Not my bad.
Talk into the mic.
Okay, Luther Homa continues to improve as their attendance has gone up, program has gone up. The camp is moving along very well financially. We've made great strides here within the last year, and so we thank God for the camp and the opportunity to continue to reach out to the various people who have the opportunity to use the camp. Now, Luther Haven Retreat Center. I hate government. We are still trying to get permits to be able to finish our building that was destroyed by fire 5 years ago. We've had numerous roadblocks put into finishing the project and so forth, but we want to get the project done as soon as possible. One reason is so we can get insurance on the building that we're building. So we do not have another disaster again. So we continue to work with that. We're operating with a smaller main building that we use for facilities. It's being used. In fact, continuing ed is on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Continue to run a continuing ed class out there. That's scheduled for next week. So the facility is being used. It's available for anybody to use. Pastor Mark Westcoat is the camp manager out there. So if you want to go out there for a retreat, contact him. He's begging people to come out. In fact, he'll let you come out and help with work. So that's an opportunity that you have. There's a lot of little projects that we still need to complete out there. So we have completed the total fire suppression unit that we had to put those in. We've got generators on camp now, but those have been approved. So there are movements forward, but we're waiting for approval from the state engineer and various committees to approve us moving ahead to complete the project of the building that was burned out. That's it.
All right. Thank you very much. We're going to miss you. You will not be appreciated in Northern Illinois, trust me.
It's my son's fault. He left home 6 years ago.
Stewardship exec. Rick, would you like the microphone just handed down to you? With your new hip?
Yeah, bionic hand.
All right.
He's newly hip.
Not hardly. Stewardship. We've got a couple of responsibilities, one of which is putting together district salary guidelines. If you guys have any input or anything that you'd like to have included or something that you'd like to take a look at, please let me know. Item 2 is trying to help congregations, circuits, the entire district actually with funding and trying to help people to understand what stewardship really is all about. In my mind, stewardship is whole life stewardship. God gives each of us days and hours to live. And how we use them and how we use our resources is all toward His glory. And And I've got a lot of resources out on the website. Take a look at them. And again, if you have any questions, if you'd like me to come by, I'll be glad to visit pretty much anybody, except for I'm not sure about the panhandle, but pretty much anybody. And be glad to be a resource for you guys, and we've got a lot of things. Second is, if any of you are interested in being involved in like a stewardship committee, I'd like to try to put together some people, especially around the state, where I can multiply our time and try to be a little bit more effective. The last thing is, thank you for approving this overture regarding the sabbatical guidelines. I think we're seeing a lot of guys that are getting pretty stressed and a little burned out, and want to try to be of help to all of us, especially emotionally and spiritually as we walk forward. If you have any questions, please get a hold of me. I'm easy to find. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Youth Ministry, our youth exec, Ms. Suzanne Watt.
The longest report in the whole.
Yes, I did have a long report. Welcome. It's on pages 46, 47, and 48, and I will not read it to you. Just a couple of things that I do want to highlight, though. As many of you have heard, this summer is the next Lutheran Youth Gathering. We're no longer calling it National Youth Gathering, just so you know, just because it's not national, it's international. And we have approximately 240 from Oklahoma who are attending, which puts our numbers very close to what we've had for the last 3 gatherings. We're only about 20 to 30 off, which I think is a natural ebb and flow of how many students are in some of our ministries and where we're at. And compared to other districts, we look really good with the numbers we have. So I think that is a blessing from the Lord that our youth are still strong, that our congregations are still strong, and that we're able to send the number that we are. So thank you very much for that and for the support for our district youth ministry that many of you are giving. Secondly, earlier I passed out 2 different color handouts and tried to put one at every table. If you didn't get one or need additional ones, please contact me after the convention, and I'd be more than happy to get you some copies. We'll also be putting these on the youth portion of the district website where you can download and access them. This one just highlights a few of the upcoming events. We've already got some events planned for this fall and into the beginning of 2023. And the big event, it was a multi-page handout. It's a program we started several years back with Concordia University, Nebraska called CLASS. CLASS stands for Concordia Leadership and Service Summit. And the idea was that we would partner with one of our Concordias to do a program specifically aimed at 8th through 12th grade youth that not only exposes them to a Concordia University, but also has a student Christian leadership component where they're being led in sessions by actual personnel from the university. The university also brings in speakers. They do a service project while they're there. They get to eat the all-you-can-eat cafeteria for free. I know that's a big one. Adults go for free. Students are $50, and they are going to allow the students to stay on campus this year, saving in rooming and board. All you have to do is get there. The past years before COVID, when we were able to do this, we tried to partner together with several churches and bring groups in large vans. We will do that again. They're also encouraging groups to go on their own, or if you have a parent and a child who want to go, or if you as a church worker or an involved volunteer want to go, that would be wonderful. But there's more information that will be coming out about it. The registration is online, and I really, really hope that you can bring this back to your congregation and use this as a possible tool to get some of your youth interested in the possibility of going to a Concordia and what that could mean for them. Thank you.
Are there any other announcements that can be made at this time? Yes, sir.
So everyone turn in your evaluation sheets at the counter, and we're voting questions, and have it marked alphabetically or a numerical where's your go.
Okay. so,
voting advice and the evaluation form at the county.
all right, so, we will not need the voting devices anymore, so, that's a good thing to turn back in, there's not souvenirs. I want to just thank everybody. I did that at the beginning of the convention, but now I think you understand how much work has been involved with these people, like the Vice Presidents Nairns, Brown, and Hall, and Butch Raines, and Janice Hedrick, and Linda Bradford, and Cindy Smith, and Reverend Jonathan Meyer, and Dr. Chris Berkowitz, and Bev England, and the Kingfisher Circuit. It's just a lot of people made this convention happen, and it's happening to the point of where we are ending early. And however, we have only one problem. I was the Pastor Harrison in here, and he's supposed to install the new president before the new president installs everybody else. So, do we just kind of make this up as we go along, President-elect? All right. See, that's what we get for ending so early. We were not supposed to end for another half hour. So I think let's take a break for a little bit. But don't leave especially if you're an elected officer, because you have to be installed, otherwise you will be shot.